You're listening to Career Bootcamp, your supply chain career accelerated, a 5-part supply chain podcast series sponsored by IBM Watson Supply Chain and powered by Procurious. I'm Hugo Britt, the host of this series, which is designed to help you sprint outside of your comfort zone and get into the best career shape of your life. Featuring tips and tricks from some of the best in the business, we'll be discussing how to make it as a head of supply chain, the true value of professional certifications, how to persevere in the face of adversity, and what the future holds for the profession. Today, I'm joined by IBM Supply Chain Vice President Ron Castro. Ron is responsible for all strategy, execution, and transformation of IBM's global end-to-end supply chain, delivering to clients in over 170 countries. He leads the digital and cognitive transformation for supply chain, leveraging emerging technologies to build transparent, intelligent, and predictive supply chains at scale. Ron, let's jump straight into it with my first question. What are the greatest challenges and complexities you face working with IBM's $70 billion supply chain?
Okay, great, Hugo. I guess first of all, I do have the pleasure to lead one of the most talented and innovative supply chain teams in the world. I really love the adrenaline, all the variables that you need to be able to optimize it, and the challenge of ensuring the right balance between demand and supply while we deliver our highest quality at a high serviceability level, always focus on managing revenue, cost, and cash. Along those lines, we are sensing and responding fast in the most intelligent way to any changes in the supply-demand equation, whether it be introduction of new products, reacting to a natural disaster, geopolitical issues, supply constraints, etc. We're in the technology industry that's changing by the minute. But when I step back, the challenge that really keeps me up at night is, are we transforming bold enough? Are we moving fast enough? And more importantly, is our people. Are we giving our folks, our team, the tools they need to be successful, eliminating barriers for progress, creating engaged and self-directed teams? And at the end of the day, an organizational culture that's primed to leverage new technologies and unleash innovation, challenge the status quo. So along these lines, do we truly have the skills for the future?
Excellent. So what technologies have helped you meet these challenges and face the complexities you've just described? How has AI helped you build a smarter supply chain?
Great question. So there are two key points to make here. First, this is a journey, and we've been at it now for many years. Second, technologies come and go, but this time it does feel different as we're at a true inflection point where new technological capabilities are truly enabling us to take advantage of all kinds of data. And more than data, be able to get actionable insight close to real time. So in our case, it all started several years ago as we built a digital thread across our supply chain processes and systems. And we call this our transparent supply chain, which gave us an excellent platform to apply advanced analytics and manage our business by exceptions. This was just the start of our journey. Around 2 years ago, we set a very clear goal to become the first cognitive supply chain. This is based on our strong belief that with machine-human interaction, we can truly augment our supply chain professionals' daily decision-making. So, as we accelerate our journey, there are several emerging technologies which provide incredible opportunity. Artificial intelligence, and in our case, we're leveraging Watson, machine learning, blockchain, and several advanced manufacturing and logistics technologies like, of course, IoT. We're leveraging augmented reality, virtual reality, 3D printing. And in IBM, actually, we've even already started to strategize. How can quantum computing, how could it help us solve the most complex supply chain optimization problems? But back to your question about Watson and artificial intelligence and our cognitive supply chain journey. Let me, think back in one of the quotes from our CEO, Ginny Rometty, where human and machines always get a better answer than human alone or machine alone. So, with that principle, our cognitive supply chain, we gain augmentation through Watson. We're training Watson with our best supply chain experts and even let Watson observe our decision making in digital resolution rooms, and Watson actually is learning real time with us. That way, Watson can help us identify risk to predict issues, and as a trusted advisor, suggest our best course of action. How were similar problems tackled in the past? What are the risks or alternatives? Who should be involved? Or even advise us on what actions could we be taking and a playbook to manage the situation better and faster. All of this based on previous learning and continuous improvement. So Watson is a system that never forgets and is always learning. So just to close it up, as we map the future of our supply chain, it is crystal clear that we're getting the most value of our AI capabilities as we start to stack technologies together. Let me give you an example. Let's think about our global trade and distribution. The amount of data you can gather from IoT devices that can be fed into an ecosystem that runs in a blockchain that provides real-time tracking status. Now, on top of this, you can apply advanced analytics or artificial intelligence to get real-time insights and best possible actions for any disruption you might get in your network. So if you start to think about the stacking the capabilities, it becomes a very powerful value proposition.
Ron, what are the benefits IBM and others are reaping from using Watson? And you mentioned before that Watson learns by observing the team. How else are you teaching Watson to learn on its own?
Excellent, Hugo. So, this is a special area of pride for myself and for the team. So, the journey to becoming the first cognitive supply chain has already yielded significant benefits across all of our health indicators, really, such as inventory, cash, supplier management, total cost, client satisfaction, and revenue. So it's really hitting the health and the core of our supply chain metrics here. To be more specific, we've seen inventory level reductions at around 18%, including structural cost reductions of 2.5%. All of this while maintaining the serviceability level. We've been able to collaborate and manage our supplier base much more efficiently, which increased the data retrieval and the insight we can get from that data up to 90% faster. And along those lines, it's helping us reduce our late order requirements to our suppliers by over 70%. So from an overall cost standpoint, we've seen reductions, as I mentioned before, in working capital, as well as significant reductions in freight logistics by eliminating expedites and being able to anticipate issues much better and taking the best course of action. But, Hugo, what really excites me the most are the capabilities to protect our clients and our revenue from any kind of supply chain disruption, either the day-to-day minor disruptions to the major disruptions, where we're now solving issues that in the past maybe could have taken us a few days, in some cases even hours. And in just one example, for example, we were able to save revenue of over 60 million. So we're off to a very fast and positive start, and quite honestly, we're just at the beginning of this journey as well. So you also mentioned how we're teaching Watson to learn. So the key point, and I've mentioned this before, is we're training Watson with our best supply chain experts, our SMEs. We're actually taking Watson to our supply chain school, learning every day from the best in the industry. And at the end here, the plan is to augment our professionals' capability with artificial intelligence and machine learning, leveraging our Watson capability as a trusted advisor for inventory, supply, orders, quality, and many other areas. So machines that are being trained by our best subject matter experts, helping us make better decisions. In many cases also, going further, by leveraging machines for visual recognition to help us, for example, see better and faster. Machines reading and analyzing EC documents for us. Resolution rooms where we create new collaborative learning models between humans and machines. Hugo, these are just a few examples, and this is where the future of supply chain is getting very exciting. We're just at the early stages, and in my opinion, this will continue to accelerate at an exponential rate.
At Procurious, we've been impressed that although IBM has been the champion of artificial intelligence, it continually reinforces to its customers and the broader supply chain profession the value in people working with machines to achieve outcomes. What does human leadership mean to you?
Yeah, excellent. There's always a key requirement and a need for human leadership, without a doubt. And quite honestly, as I step back, some of the fundamentals don't change. Passion, perseverance, grit, global and holistic thinking, collaboration, the value of diversity, building a culture of feedback and continuous improvement. All elements of a high-performance culture, if anything, become even more critical. The basics remain similar, but the speed and the boldness of the leadership team to gain the hearts and minds of the organization to accelerate the visions becomes most critical. We need leaders that take risk and drive a clear vision around the digital supply chain and the need to be innovators. Leaders that value experimentation over perfection are willing to try new things and course correct fast as needed, viewing missteps as learning versus derailments. This requires an engaged leadership team and organization. Trust becomes fundamental building block in our employees, but also in our ethical and transparent algorithms to leverage artificial intelligence and other technologies. The leaders of the future need to complement their supply chain expertise with a deeper understanding of technology and where the trends are heading. Disruptions are coming, and they will heal faster than ever. So agility to react becomes essential.
Ron, speaking of human leadership, how did you get started in supply chain and what has been your journey?
Yeah, so I've been in supply chain or operations for over 2 decades now. And it all started, I'm actually originally from Costa Rica, but I came to the U.S. to study engineering. So I got my undergraduate and master's degree in industrial engineering. Then I had the pleasure, as I mentioned about a couple of decades ago, to join IBM. And one of the things that really helped me is I had the opportunity, especially early in my career, to rotate across many different areas of IBM, but many different areas of the supply chain. Giving me areas like production, procurement, fulfillment, manufacturing, logistics, you name it. So I was able to touch the end-to-end supply chain. Also had the privilege and the opportunity to live abroad and actually live across all the regions in the U.S. I've been in the West, Midwest, South, in the East Coast as well. I spent some time in Brazil, France, Australia, China, and now I'm here in RTP. So that helped me get a holistic and a broad perspective of supply chain, but also how IBM operates. Along the way, had great successes, but quite honestly, I had some significant failures as well. And if there's a big advice here, it's I think failure can be your friend as long as you react fast and learn from them and keep moving forward. So that's a little bit of my journey. So I've been fortunate enough to be able to touch pretty much all areas of the supply chain.
If you were starting your supply chain career today, what skills would you focus on developing?
Yeah, and I touched a little bit in the previous questions about the technology and some of the requirements for leadership. So some of them will sound a bit consistent, but as you start your career, it's really that stepping back and making sure you are a holistic, a global and horizontal thinker. That you're embracing new ways of working, new ways of collaborating, being an agile thinker. And in this new world, the basics of supply chain discipline are still critical. You need to understand how the different silos, how the different pieces integrate and operate so you can optimize a supply chain holistically from an end-to-end perspective. But you also need to be technically savvy. The human-machine interaction will continue to increase, and all these technologies we've talked about and all the value of the stacking of technologies will continue to become even more critical in supply chain. So some level of technical savviness is critical, especially early on. Data scientists and being able to gather the insight, the right questions will become critical for those professionals as well. And at the end, I'm a big believer in grit, passion, and if there's a piece of advice for those early in your career, it's always be as bold and as fast as you can. I've never looked back in a transformation or an initiative saying, darn it, I wish I would have gone slower. I think there's always room to be bolder and to go faster. think I guess just to wrap it up, the biggest challenge will be to become a disruptor versus being disrupted. It is truly an awesome opportunity at the moment, and it's a great time to be in supply chain. Quite honestly, it's ours for the taking. So we need to embrace it. We need to drive innovation. And as I mentioned before, we need to move boldly ahead, fast. Thank you, Hugo.
Thank you so much for joining us today, Ron. You've been listening to the Career Bootcamp podcast series, Your Supply Chain Career Accelerated, sponsored by IBM Watson Supply Chain and powered by Procurious. Head on over to the Supply Chain Professionals group on Procurious to explore lots more related content. If you have any questions for our speakers or comments about the series, you can contact us on Twitter using the hashtag CareerBootcamp or use the discussion board on Procurious itself. Thanks for listening.